podcast number 12 of the Women Who Make It Happen Journeys to Success with Jane. We're going to do a couple introductions of ourselves. We're going to discuss her journey, how she got to where she is today, but also the role that you're in at the moment, the challenges and the excitement which comes with being a chairman of supervisory boards, executive directors and so forth. And then the topic on everyone's mind is how is AI going to remove more and more manual jobs and how you see that taking over the industry.
A bit of a teaser, it's not. Not going to. But we'll talk about it later.
And then how you found the technology has evolutionised the industry over the years that you've been working in it. Any challenges you found in hiring diversity and leadership positions, and just some words of encouragement. So I'll kick us off. So I work for Interquest. So we're a global search and consultancy business where I head up our Amsterdam office. This is across three main pillars: risk, regulation and compliance, and throughout financial services. Over to you.
Alright, my name is Jane Zavalishina, and as you already said, my key role nowadays is an independent director for the supervisory boards, or even sometimes chairman of the supervisory boards. I'm actually pretty excited. I consider it my new profession, because the whole previous life I was always a director of one or another.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of, moving further to some next horizons, and I like it very much.
Oh, good. So obviously you mentioned there from being directors and moving further. So if we take us back to the beginning of your career, how did this all happen?
It will sound really so funny. My first position as a director was when I was 18.
Really?
And the reason was that, I basically wanted something to eat, right? It was quite a hard time back in our country, and who would hire me when I'm 18, right? So I created my own company.
As you do.
That was the only choice.
And what was that company, just out of interest?
Back then I was studying in a university on psychology of development and education. And a particular interest was to preschool kids, right? The toddlers, how do they learn things? How do they learn how to study? How they become people who know how to study themselves. Actually, and I think it's the best age to actually invest in it, which no one does pretty much. So that was my focus in the university. So while in the university, I also opened the company doing exactly that. So we were working with kids. Fortunately for me, I wasn't licensed or something activity, because of course for preschool kids it's not considered to be like education.
No.
It's more like, I don't know, recreation activity, right? And then small groups, up to 8 kids, for a short period of time, like 1.5 hours, twice a week, something like this. We would meet with them and teach them things, like, all that alphabet, counting some primitive things, but mostly teaching them how to study, how to learn things.
Oh.
And you can see, right? I'm very excited. I love that.
You can see the passion in it as well.
Yeah. When I was a second year in university, I opened another branch for my business and hired my first employee.
Oh, that's always like a massive milestone. The first one in.
Yes.
And then as it moved on from there, how did that kind of develop and then kind of roll you into the roles that you're in today?
Well, the fact is that, that something even more exciting happened. Internet.
No.
So it was 1997, 1998, and internet boomed, and it was absolutely obvious that that's the next world, the next life opening up.
Yes.
So, and I was always onto computers. When I was choosing my university major, I was choosing between software development and psychology, believe it or not. I know it sounds funny, but that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, of course, I decided that there is nothing more exciting in this world than humans.
Yeah.
So I chose for psychology. However, the technology, and especially its application, right? Its applied aspects. That is what always excited me. So I'm not very much fan of the technology per se, right? I'm not a software developer, I'm not a data scientist, I'm not a physicist. I like to see how new technologies we see appearing now can improve our lives, right? Change our lives better. That's what I was always actually working in, right? All the industries I was working in were always about that.
Nice.
So yeah, internet happened, and of course we, well, together with my husband and his friend, created, for some small startup. I'm not even sure we knew the word startup back then, but I think it was. Yeah. And I started from there. It got acquired by a larger internet company, and I became one of the first chief product officer of Yandex, and then other things. So I kind of got sucked into this industry, but mostly worked with people anyways, right? So it's managerial positions.
Of course.
Yeah, that's how it was. And then when something became a bit more, well, let's say, obvious, right? Like with this internet things, when we were just building new internet projects, understanding how traffic works, how conversion works, how, why people click on things or not. All these kind of things, what is the usability of interfaces and the web. It was absolutely exciting, but then it just became an industry, right? Like normal job. So it became boring. And I switched to a new one, which was electronic payments.
Yes.
Because it was new and exciting, and I had no idea how the payments work, and I had no idea how the payment work, and I needed to find a new challenge, and so that was it. So then I stayed for like 7-8 years in that industry, and again it became boring because it became obvious, right? I mean, everyone knows how it works. Even the banks have their own, electronic money systems and such. When we just started, I remember talking with banks, which would ask me, but what is the problem you are solving? Who even needs real-time transfer? What's the problem with getting your money like the next day or in 3 days? They were seriously asking me that, right? Now it's completely different. So when it again became absolutely industrialized, I would say, and I was the CEO of this payment company with like 2 million customers. I realized that I spent most of my life. I don't want to sound offensive, but most of my life talking with risk, compliance, and legal, and that's not what I want in my life.
Well, you're back here with fun now.
Because I'm a product person, I'm a team person, so that's what always excited me in these businesses, right? We're creating some exciting product, and I'm building like this super cool team of people who can do that.
Yeah, it's like the future.
And when you don't have time for that, it kind of doesn't make sense anymore.
No.
So I left that position too, and again we sold a majority stake in this company to a major bank. But while we were doing this, while we were negotiating this deal from the very start, I made clear that I'm not staying, right? So I'm finishing the deal and I'm leaving. So I left and started looking around, and that was 2013 end of, and that's when AI happened. I mean, no one knew AI happened yet. Everyone was crazy about big data.
Yeah.
But as I said, right, to me, it's all about applications, and it was absolutely clear that their focus on like this big data, well, it's basically ridiculous, right? Because it's just costs you are focusing on.
Yeah.
You need to store it, to collect it, but then what? So when I got this opportunity to build a new business for Yandex, applying their machine learning algorithms to the data in different industries and internationally, I was super excited and said, of course, yes.
Yeah.
And again, just as with payments, I had no idea how machine learning works and what it is about.
Yeah.
But it was again very clear that it is something so big, it's going to be there. And I still remember it was again a funny fact. I think it was 2016 when one of the British think tanks, I participated once or twice in their events, asked me to write some blog posts because they had like jubilee series of posts on the next 20 years future and such. So they asked me about the data. again, it wasn't AI, but then we thought artificial intelligence is something they tried to do in the 70s and never worked, right? So it was about machine learning. But my article was basically about the new industrial revolution that machine learning brings. And then the next year, Klaus Schwab from World Economic Forum announced that it's a new industrial revolution. So that's a funny bragging rights.
Yeah, it's like, I
did it earlier. Yeah, maybe he read my post. I don't know.
A little bit too late. But that's funny because the whole product and tech side really interests me. Like, I think the whole technology aspect of businesses is becoming more and more prominent in data usages,
of course,
making jobs more efficient by bringing in AI and also looking at kind of product features. And if you look at banks now, banks' main focus previously was, okay, let's get people in, let's talk to them online, let's do that. Whereas now product is at the kind of heart of every business. How can we update the product? How can we make it more feasible?
And not only banks.
No, not only banks, but like they're the more traditional side coming in. Whereas if you see more of the fintechs and payments, they're much more adapted to that anyway, because they're digitally oriented and they actually think about a belief in data rather than let me shake your hand 10 times and look you in the eyes. It's completely irrelevant now, but it's changed so much.
It's still relevant for ultra net worth individuals.
Yes, mainly because you want to move them. But when you take it from like the product side and go into a chairman and supervisory position, what does that entail? How does that apply to the business in that sense?
Well, that's a good question, which I don't have a full answer to because I'm still learning, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, well, maybe I should start with explaining how this happened, right? Because after I finished my tenure with my last business I was a CEO of, which was the Index Data Factory, I realized that I just want to try and look around and see what else I can do. Because I said I was a director for my whole life. I never done anything else. Well, when I was 14 on summer vacations, I had some sort job, but basically I've never done anything else.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, what can I do if not that, right? Because I'm, you see, so extrovert person, I decided that I'll just go with the flow, right? So there are people around, they come, they ask things, and I'll try different things and see how it goes. I took a year, and that's what I've done. And at the end of this year, I realized a few things which brought me where I am now. First of all, I realized that, well, for example, it's very natural when you are an expert in some industry, especially when it's, well, in demand, that of course people want you to, and you tell them all, of course, that you are not taking executive position. That's what I was doing. They would ask for some, I don't know, consultancy, some project with them and such. And I quickly realized that it doesn't work for me at all. Because honestly, sometimes it's even useful for them. So I did like a couple of gigs and the customers were pretty happy, but I wasn't. Because somewhere, you know, deep inside, I don't believe it actually creates value. I believe that to create value, you need a long-term thing.
You need to understand it.
You need to work with the company longer, not just understand, but also, you know, see how they implement it, correct them along the way. Well, be together. The second thing is that these kind of jobs, they are very lonely. And I'm a person of a team, you know? And again, just sitting by myself, you know, talking to myself, you know, writing things, that's not me.
No.
And that's how I ended up choosing something different. And first of all, was also kind of coming from consultant, but it was advisory work. So it's still kind of consultancy work, but it's in a different way, right? You're working with a company for years. Yeah. So your tenure is like 2-3 years. You really get inside, you really get to work with the management and, you know, to see them, to understand them, and to help them.
You're a part of it.
Yeah. And I loved it. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, that's probably something I can do. And then, just the offer came for me to become an independent director for the board of directors. First in Kazakhstan, almost simultaneously. First in Kazakhstan, where I had the other clients, and second here in the Netherlands for company which was applying for a license, for an e-money license, and they legally required to have an independent board of directors.
Yes.
So of course I agreed. It wasn't about money because these are small boards and such, but I was pretty excited to try it.
I'm not surprised when you kind of go into something different like that,
Yeah.
and then you take a different concept almost.
Yeah. Exactly.
It'd be really kind of interesting as to how that's applied.
Yeah,
as
you need
well
to start.
to-
I mean, I think it's very helpful that you were an executive before because
Yeah.
you can understand how they think. However, your position, your role, your responsibilities are completely different now, right?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't think as an executive when you are in the board. So yeah, it's super interesting. And then, well, actually, both boards asked me to become their chairman sometime later. But I think the most exciting thing that happened was when I was invited, not as a chairman, but to create a committee and chair this committee in the board of a steel-making company because they wanted to. They were already pretty good in digitalizing, as much as I can see at that moment. But they decided it's a more strategic thing than just something only management and some operational level are thinking about. So they wanted to create a digital development committee at the board level to, basically to lead the strategy in this. And it just so happened that when I was working with this AI company at the data factory, I had some experience with industrial companies and was pretty excited about it because that's where AI being applied actually brings huge scale changes.
Yeah, because that can really apply to many different things. Yeah.
And of course, I was super excited about it, and so it wasn't not about me saying yes.
Take me.
It was for them to consider it. It took some time, but then it was super valuable because, this saying that if you are smartest, you are in the room, you are in the wrong room.
I love that saying.
And that was one of the places where I definitely felt I'm in the right room.
Yeah, I know.
And that was, again, I'm like 40 something, right? So it's not often you have this opportunity to sit together with people they're learning from them. You're not just contributing what you can, but you're learning so many new things and approaches and way of thinking and all these kind of things. So thanks to them, I think I understood much better how this whole governance model with a board, with a two-tier board, it's called, right? When you have like the executives and they're separated from boards of directors or supervisory boards, as they call it here. Now I apply that to smaller boards which don't really have that much of practice in building the proper governance processes. So that's where I am.
That is actually really interesting. I love the saying, if you're the smartest person in the wrong room, you're in the wrong room. I've heard that one before, and that's something I've really kind of held on to. I think I really believe it as well, particularly if you're going into industry.
Yeah.
It's like when you go somewhere because you're comfortable, 100% of something. It's pointless, just stay where you are.
Well, I'm a lucky one to almost not have that. I mean, in these new industries, right, which are rapidly developing, you definitely are not the smartest person in the room, but it's like you are at the level, right? Each one brings something, but you're at the level. And then, first time for a long time, I felt like, okay, I have something to, live up to. So
I gotta actually deliver this, and that brings me to my next thing, which I think is on the tongue of everyone at the minute, is AI.
Yeah.
How we see that integrating into companies, because I think it's become, although it's been around since when you started using it in 2013, as you said, it's become a lot more heard of and thought about in practice in the last year.
Yeah.
How is that impacting manual jobs? How is it kind of contributing to business growth? And how is it being utilised? And where do you think it's going to be going?
Well, the funny thing is, I would say that, while in 2013 and 2015, people still in the business, I had not much of an idea of how to use AI and machine learning in the businesses. By, let's say 2018-19, it was already like the key topic for every business. However, for like normal people, for mass audience, for mass media, it wasn't making a good picture, right? It wasn't making a picture at all. Because when you are applying like one of the exciting projects, for example, we realized, right, when we optimize the steel making process. So you apply this algorithm and you start saving, 5% of additives to the steel, which are super expensive. And typically for metallurgists, any improvement requires, new equipment, right? It requires capital investments. And here, out of nothing, you just get 4% cost savings, while your profit margin is 8, right? So it's like, huge.
Mind-blowing.
But come on, right? That's not something easy to discuss, in the mass media or just, in the living room with your guests.
Well, it's tarnished.
So it is, yes. But it was kind of invisible. It was an invisible revolution.
Yeah.
What changed, in my view, this year is not actually the technological perspectives or whatever, but we finally have seen the retail and customer oriented things which work.
Yeah.
First of all, of course, ChatGPT, like Midjourney, these kind of things, because that is astonishing. When you are, right into this thing, it's like, please, could you help me to, change this text the way that it's more polite, for example, or just the opposite, more convincing, and does like something so, okay, but I think it's a little bit too complex. Can you use simpler words? It's okay. And now, after that, it's hard not to say thanks, right? Because it's like, thanks, now it's great, that's what I'm doing. I said, sure, you're very welcome, wish you luck with the application. Yeah. Because I understood that it was some application, right?
Yeah.
Come on.
It is a hell of a lot easier, and it's even for us, for an example, if you work with companies that want things like now and yesterday, and they don't have time to write a job description. So you just put like 4 words and it brings out a whole text of things that you think.
And the same thing is actually with Midjourney, because you can now create your own pictures, for nothing, more or less. Yeah. Right? And
you can get cropped into different places, even if you're not there.
That's absolutely incredible. And that is something I think that changed in the last year. It's not like the AI actually reached new levels.
It's still the same.
Not exactly, because the most interesting developments are still, we're still waiting for them. And just as I said, 3-4 years ago, right, what would be the most interesting, it's still there, right? We still not achieved that. However, the fact that we now brought it to like normal people in normal life changes a lot, yes. But not for manual jobs. Right?
Okay.
Because the funny thing about manual jobs is, again, I might be mistaken because I wasn't watching it. Not mistaken, but kind of my information might be outdated because I wasn't watching that closely for the last, let's say, 3-4 years. But then I remember talking with the guys who were trying to create, proper robotic arms and these kind of things, which would be able to actually replace human one, and it's almost unsolvable task. Our hands, speaking of manual labor, are such an incredible invention. It's really something we still cannot reproduce properly. So we can produce something which will, do repetitive operations, but not much more. So what happens
you see
now?
that with like technical operations where people are in theatre and you can kind of have robots perform heart surgery.
Yeah, but the thing about robots, as compared to AI, this invisible AI, which are basically algorithms just working somewhere, is that robots, again, capital investments, right? So, and especially when you are in the industry, which is developing so quickly, they're not always happy to, pay a lot of money for a robot, which probably outdated in a few years, while actually humans are still doing it pretty economically. If you can empower them with AI, right? So very often it happens like you have, for example, kind of an advisory system, right, for an operator, which will advise everyone what to do or instruct what to do. And now you have better results, but in fact manual labor is there. So what our AI, current AI, is replacing is not manual labor. It's actually a white collar, low-level white collar labor, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? So some boring parts of our, so like, I don't know, watching KPIs and making decisions on, some corrections on the way, right? That's something boring, something algorithmic. Yeah, so it's something boring, it's something algorithmic.
Yeah.
It's something humans shouldn't be doing. Humans should be doing something interesting, right? Something, exciting.
You'd like to think so.
Yeah, well, I believe that,
Yeah.
right? And I act on it.
Yeah, you're the prime example.
So I think, for example, if you are considering your perspectives to be replaced by AI, first of all, if you're in some low level of a job, you most probably will. However, it simply means that you need to learn how to be a boss with this AI, right? How to be the one empowered with those algorithms. Because we will need more of these people.
Yeah.
We don't have them yet.
It's kind of giving
And
people
if you are
the
in manual
algorithm.
labor, especially when we are talking of not just manual labor, but also human interaction, it's still there. You are right that we are now, not expecting, handshakes with the bankers. That's true. However, when I go to a cafe, when I go to a hairdresser, when I do, these kind of things, we want humans.
Oh, 100%. I think if you went to anywhere like that, there's always going to be some part of human interaction which you're going to need. If you're a client, for example, and you're messaging us and you're getting our robots and our AIs and our automated things applying, I just want to speak to someone on the phone.
Of course.
I just want to talk to somebody, actually understand and have a conversation rather than a generated message or an app.
But again, the happy thing is, because you remember we had this awful period, it's I think now pretty much over, when all the call centers were in some cheap labor countries, basically, with really hard to understand English and have to call, and it was awful.
Yeah.
What we have now, we can actually use AI for simple tasks. So you don't need to call a person, right? And that's why you don't need to also that. But however, when it's a bit more complicated than that, AI can prepare all the materials and all the recommendations and everything to a human. So a real human can deal with that much quickly, much more efficiently, and only pay attention to, 5% of cases which do require.
Yeah.
And it works much better for everyone because we feel, properly serviced while it's cost saving. Not because of cheap labor, but because of smarter way of doing things.
This is it. This is the thing. It's a smarter way of doing things rather than actually trying to cut the cop.
Yeah.
It's finding a more efficient way to be more effective at your job.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because if you think of, lawyers, they've got to go through documents and documents and documents. But if you can have an AI do that, rather than taking 4 hours, it could take you 4 minutes. And then you can kind of maximize your
Yeah, but you need to know how to use it properly, right? Because AI, in fact, I was mentioning that I'm not happy working with lawyers and compliance all the time, but
sorry to bring that
frankly,
up.
I realized very well, exactly because I did this, I realized very well that in this kind of job, it's actually a creative job, right? Because you're not just looking for sales.
No.
You are trying to figure out how things work and how you make things work in your particular situation. And what are the options? What are the consequences? So you have your own creative task to solve with all this information. So you need to, that's what I'm saying, right? You need to learn how to be a proper boss to AI, right? Because AI will not ask questions for you. That's what you need to do. But yes, it can help you a lot with preparation, right? Even at the very low level, like for example, I think right now the systems like that are already quite popular. It is becoming quite popular when you are a large company with a lot of contracts and subcontractors and vendors and such. You have this huge database of your contracts, and you have a new one coming in. You have the system which just analyzes everything and says, this clause is untypical from what we usually do. And this clause doesn't match like this policy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't know what to do with this, right? But it just goes, checks through everything, and here you are, you have a material for your work, for your decisions. You might decide it's okay because that's a very special partner. Or you might decide it's, something wrong is going on, and maybe my sales are, well, maybe some corruption is there, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm one who really likes the technology side though. Like, I really believe in it, and I used to, although I'm in the risk side now, used to do technology previously.
Yeah.
So then when I came over to financial services, I naturally mitigated towards the fintech side, because the whole like data, finance and risk kind of collaborating together really intrigued me, and the use of it. And you speak to so many people that are product officers, technology officers, and they're so inquisitive, but it's because of how broad it is. And I think I never really realised just how much you can do with the use of technology and how much more it can add to a business by adding to it.
Yeah.
And with AI coming into play, you see some people kind of go like this and others run at it as to how can we add it into the business today? How can we change it?
The funny thing is, when it started becoming pretty much the commonplace, I mean, in business, like 17, 18, 19, I used to, well, in my lectures or some speeches at the conferences, I used to start with asking people, how many of you used AI today? Please raise.
How many raises did you get?
Well, of course, this number would change over time, which is a good sign. But initially it would be, I don't know, 10% of all of it. Like, okay, guys, let me show you. this is that. Was AI serving you? You just didn't realize that. Yes, but it's there.
Yeah, everywhere now.
Yeah. The other funny thing was, again, when it was just the initial phase of AI adoption by businesses, many of them were. Many business people were kind of confused about AI bringing results but not giving you explanation, right? And like, oh, it works like a black box. How can I deal with it? Well, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
And then I would ask them, okay, let me ask you something. Do you know how email works? I mean, I do. Right? Because I was back then, doing that when this all started. But do you know how it works? Well, except for the fact that you are pushing a send button and someone receives
something, So,
and still you are using it and you don't care. Why? Because you're used to it. Because we're humans, that's how it works.
It's common.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually you just get used to it. You know that you push this button and it works. That's it. And it happens with the AI actually even faster than I expected. Yeah. Over, I think, 3-5 years, I stopped getting questions about, but how can we use it if we don't know why it did this and that? Well, that's fine. If there are some things which require explanation why. Because, for example, the decisions which would require human collaboration, right? We can't collaborate without sense of it, without goal of it, without understanding why we are doing things. And that's okay. If you are creating your strategy, you don't need AI for that, right? No. You need to talk with people, and you need to have explanations how you came to these results, to these goals and whatever. However, if you need some, decision about, well, which person should receive which offer with which particular wording,
you don't.
Why would you need an explanation for that? You just need results.
Yeah, it's what you said. It's like, okay, I don't need to know why. When you put it into that context and you actually think about it, we don't know how or why. We just do it because we know it does what we want it to do, and we don't question it because we've got what we needed. So why?
It's actually even worse than that. For example, in banking, there are things when it was a challenge for managers to understand how to apply AI, especially the one without explanation. I mean, there are algorithms which would allow you to generate an explanation of the decision. However, like for example, I don't know, we're rejecting a person with opening an account or giving a loan. And in many cases, even the regulation requires you to provide the explanation for your customer in case it's requested. The problem is it doesn't solve anything because of course you will receive an explanation.
Yeah.
I mean, even from a human. Does it really reflect why you were rejected? In most of the cases, no.
It's quite generic.
Not because people are lying to you, while, it's not lying, right? It's just when we are explaining why you've done something, we are, well, coming up, because this explanation is so complex. If you think about it, if you ask me why, I don't know, I asked for water, right? I came up with very simple explanation. Well, I'm thirsty. But why I'm thirsty? Or whatever. Why I asked for that? Why I didn't ask you for coffee? Or whatever. And I can give you a simple explanation. Well, in fact, the explanation is very complex. It's all about, I don't know, how I felt today, how I felt looking at you, how I looked at your heels and decided that it's not a great idea to ask you to go for a coffee on them, or whatever, right? I just didn't reflect that all at that moment, so not I was lying to you.
Yeah.
And I gave you the simplest explanation which would work in the context.
Yeah.
So in a way, I just come up with some plausible, well, let's not say lie, but simplification, right?
It's
and that's what we as humans do.
Yeah.
And how does it help? Actually, if you want to see like the proper reasons, these are much easier to see with the algorithm than with humans. Because with algorithm, it's not like human understandable explanation, but you do have this data on which it is based, the weights of different factors and such. You can look into it. Yeah, well, you need to look into it with the proper tools, but it's objective. It's not, some, back-looking, plausible explanation we always come up
There's
with.
no
Just because
manual
we're
for it.
humans.
No.
Yeah.
The same with your humans, I think, as well. And obviously, with all the kind of changes in technology, in the product, the AI coming into it, throughout your career, what would you say? Because there must have been some challenges in there which are kind of prominent to where you are, but also what drives you to stay in the industry?
I'm not sure about this thing about the challenges. What kind of challenges you are talking about?
So everyone in their career has that primary thing where they've had a challenge that they've had to overcome through that. So to get to where you are today, I can probably imagine you've had some challenges that you've had to overcome, or maybe you haven't.
No.
But then there could be like the challenges could have been what drove you, because some people come in and they would say, okay, this really challenged me and it made me take a step back, gain a concept, and I went again.
I see.
It's like where you kind of keep going and keep moving forwards.
Well, I think, as you already heard from what I said before, the challenges are exactly what I'm for, right?
Yeah.
So basically, I leave the company or even the industry when I'm bored, because it's clear how to do things, right? There is nothing new, there are no challenges. So what excites me is when you are doing things no one really knows how to do, right? You're invented, and that actually, I think, creates an advantage, not a challenge, for women, for example, or for outliers. Let's say if you are not a standard person for it, for example, banking, right? I go to banking conferences on regulation and whatever, being one of three women in the room full of men in dark navy suits. Very rare occasion to have a woman at that level. Why? Because when you are not in traditional banking, where they have all the not even biases, but basically just it's kind of rails they have in their hands about how things go. Yeah. Right? So you go to somewhere where there is no rails, no one knows how to do this kind of things. But then they would decide on money. No one knows. So whoever comes, if it works, it works. Yeah. So you can be whoever. You can be green Martian, right? It's fine. It's like when you bring to metallurgists 4% economy without capital investments, they don't care who you are. They don't care at all.
Can you do the job? Can you come in and help me? Then do it. And I suppose that rolls quite nicely into something as well, which is from you having predominantly leadership positions. How have you found that in terms of diversity, hiring, or kind of being embedded into the business?
Well, I was actually lucky enough to start my career in this nice, short, fast development period in post-Soviet countries. And I was not just lucky because it was rapidly developing, which of course was exciting, but also because in post-Soviet countries, I had all kinds of problems. But in terms of gender equality at work, it was and still is in this territory, much better than all the developed countries.
Mhm.
The reason probably goes back to communists who wanted to have all the workforce they could recruit, but the fact that for a woman not be working but stay at home with kids longer than required, like until they are, I don't know, and more or less, take care of themselves, like
16.
No, I mean more like 43. 2-3 years older. If you stay longer, it's strange.
Yes.
It's very typical and it's kind of strange.
Mhm.
You're supposed to. So actually, we have much better gender balance at the workplace.
Yeah.
And that's why it was never a problem for me. The real problem back there is on the opposite part of this, because the culture, the communists, upgraded the industrial part of the country, let's say, but the traditionalists' habits, they are not changing it.
Die hard. Yeah.
Because that's why the biggest problem for internet equality back in post-Soviet countries is what we call second shift.
Mm.
Which basically means that you both work, you both get back home from work, and now the husband, he's of course tired because he worked, and you are cooking a dinner, taking care of kids, and doing all these kind of things. It's your second shift.
Mhm.
Because of course, you're supposed to do that.
It's
Right?
the theory behind being a woman.
Yeah. And that also changes, of course, now, but back then that wasn't the biggest problem. However, the gender equality itself was not. And I was really surprised when I started working back in my times in payments and in electronic money. As I said, it's an innovative industry, right? So you kind of expect to see more diversity.
Yeah.
Exactly, because, there's no recipe for it, right? So it works. And still, you come somewhere and you're just one of the few women. And it was quite a huge surprise for me to see how it works. Partially, yes, because you do have, especially in traditionalist countries like in the UK, for example, you have this all boys network. That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
Partially, it's different. Like here in the Netherlands, I was surprised to see how problematic is the proper diversity at the board and top executive level.
I think it's very, because obviously everyone says, oh no,
Well,
we've got a woman, she's HR.
Yeah.
And it's
Of
like,
course. Or marketing.
Yeah, or marketing. It's like, well, that's the known thing.
Yeah.
But where's the tech? Where's the product? Where's your, I don't know.
Again, it changes now.
Yeah.
But as I said, I wasn't that much surprised to see that in the UK, seeing this in the Netherlands was actually surprising me, because I already worked with Dutch people quite a lot, and they are actually pretty meritocratic, open-minded, non-bullshit people, right?
Nothing.
Yeah, we love them for that.
Just straightforward, you don't get any crap.
So why would you have this kind of problem there? But it seems that at least a part of it is actually on the women's side, because they don't feel right to work, as opposed to being home with kids and such, or at least yes, they feel right to work, but half time or something like this. And of course, it doesn't give you the opportunity to become an executive. There is no such thing as half-time executive, right? And when I talked to quite a few women here about that, it seems that, some of them just want it this way, and that's fine. But many of them, they just kind of feel wrong.
They feel obliged.
Yeah, they feel
but
wrong.
Then
It's
they
like
also feel like they've
I'm
taken
not doing an
something.
important thing, I'm being egoistic. Pursuing my own ambitions instead of taking care of our house and our kids.
Yeah, it's like we feel like we've done something
That
wrong
is so wrong.
when we choose both. Yeah? But we say, no, I can still have a family, I can build that, but I'm having a career, and I'm keeping my career. And I think that's where the mismatch and kind of disbalance kind of comes into array, because people do see all other, and this is completely acceptable if you want to, housewives and stuff like that, and feel like they have to follow suit, and then they look back and they're a bit aggravated and angry. I wanted a career as well, and I think it's about seeing both sides.
Yeah, so to me, in Europe, if we want to have better quality, better representation at the top levels of corporate governance, what we need to do is to somehow let those women know they shouldn't feel guilty for that.
No.
Because that's what they do. They do feel guilty.
That's it.
And that's what actually started this.
So I
So you need to
suppose...
somehow be able to explain it's nothing to be guilty of. It's actually, yeah, you might have kids and you might love your kids, but actually having maybe 2-3 hours a day with your happy, inspired, enthusiastic, accomplished mom is so much better than just sitting all the days with your mom, watching TV and being sad and...
it bounces off, doesn't it? Whereas if you're fulfilled and you're energetic and you're enthusiastic, it shines through with people and you can really pick up with it. Whereas if you're sat next to someone who's done a 24-hour shift and they're miserable and they need coffee, it bounces off to you and you just think, well, we'll sit here in silence. But just to kind of round this off a little bit, so looking back at everything that we've said and spoken about, if you was to put kind of a word of encouragement or a last sentence together for the audience, what would it be?
Well, first I think is something we just discussed, right?
Yeah.
Don't feel guilty. Don't think you need to choose. Don't think it's wrong to do. If you want to pursue a career, just do that. And it doesn't mean you need to, stop being a mom. You just be a better mom. That's one thing. Now, the next thing is probably the most important one at the workplace. Don't be modest. Most of women I work with, even especially the smartest ones and the most efficient ones, they always feel that they could do better. They could do better. And well, of course it's always true, right? No one's perfect. You can always do better. It shouldn't stop you from valuing what you are already, from asking for a raise or promotion because you are what you are, and looking for a workplace which would appreciate exactly what you are and what you can do. You shouldn't be waiting with that until you are perfect, until you finally accomplished everything. It doesn't happen.
You'll be waiting forever.
So just don't wait. Go and ask. Go and build. Go and say, yes, I think I can do that. And I'd like to take on it.
I always think the worst that can happen is you get a no or a knockback, but then you just learn and go again.
Yeah. Or maybe you find some, other place where it works.
And it's even better.
Yeah.
No, I really like that.
So you just shouldn't sit and wait, because most of women are actually, as I said in my work, the biggest problem with women in management and managerial positions is that, well, maybe not at the CEO level, but there are not so many of them.
No.
But in managerial position, they would somehow feel that the others should see the value she brings and should, appreciate that and somehow come up with this appreciation. It doesn't happen. Just go and take it.
No, I like that, and that's a really good ending. Just go and take it, and it's been really, really interesting. Like the whole thing, I'm just fantasized by, and then I feel like we could sit here for hours now, just kind of picking your brain. So I won't keep you that long. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Your great questions, and it was really interesting talk. Thanks.
Thank you.